Hello and welcome to Fringe Pod. My name's Connor. I'm a member of the Artists and Venues team here at Adelaide Fringe and a local theatre maker and director. I'd like to start by acknowledging that the land we meet on today is the land of the Kaurna people and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. It's an honour and privilege to continue telling stories on this land. Today's episode is titled Open Access Festivals, all about the structure, challenges and opportunities that can come from them. To discuss this topic, I'm joined by Gemma Winter, Ella Huseman and Meabh Walton. Could we start by introducing yourself and telling me a little bit about your role within Open Access Festivals? Gemma, let's start with you.
Hi, my name's Gemma. I am part of the programming team at Gluttony, which is one of the venue hubs at Adelaide Fringe. So along with a team of two other people, we curate a venue within the Adelaide Fringe.
Hello, I'm Ella Huseman, Executive Director of Audience. So my role oversees the ticketing, marketing and digital departments. So that's customer service, box offices, all of our marketing team, and then all of our integrations with systems, so the registration platform and the ticketing system and the website.
Hi, I'm Meabh. I'm the Arts Industry Coordinator over at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe Society. So over there I kind of look after a number of services that we have in regard to the Fringe in Edinburgh as an international arts marketplace. But I'm currently here at Honeypot, the international arts marketplace here in Adelaide, as a secondment.
Perfect. Thanks so much for joining me today. Let's start with you, Meabh. Tell us a little bit about what is an open access festival.
To me, an open access festival is an uncurated festival. There are curated moments within it, but it's really an opportunity for anyone to take to the stage, which leads to a lot of creativity and, a lot of moments for inspiration and,
Ella?
When we sort of talk about it, we say as long as you can find a venue and you've got an idea and you're not preaching hate speech or breaking the law, you can be involved in Adelaide Fringe, and it's very similar in Edinburgh. And then to go even a little bit deeper, we sometimes refer to ourselves as the Airbnb of the arts festivals in the world, which seems to sort of resonate with people who aren't involved in it. So Airbnb doesn't run your house for you, they don't clean it for you, they don't take the photos, but they have the platform, and as long as you abide by their rules and requirements, you can put your house on their platform. And so we are more than a platform, but I guess that sort of seems to resonate with people where it's this uncurated, anyone can be involved type thing as long as you fit within some parameters.
Yeah, great. And you've been with Adelaide Fringe for a long time now.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how your role has changed over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been here, this is my 12th festival, and I had a year off with maternity leave last year, which was really nice to step back and sort of see it all from the other side for the first time in a while. I started at Adelaide Fringe many moons ago in the box office, and then jumped around between Holden Street Theatres, Edinburgh Fringe, Melbourne International Comedy Festival, and then back to Adelaide, and then was very lucky enough to get one of the few full-time jobs that exist in our office. That has changed now. The team is much bigger as we've expanded and taken on, we do so many things now. We really lead into the inclusivity and accessibility space, into the sustainability space, and we've got a reconciliation action plan. So all of those things, really unite our team, and we're working in those spaces really cohesively. My role specifically has evolved, and that's just because of the growth in ticket numbers, and it's been phenomenal to watch over the last 10 years how that's all come to be, and that's been a big investment by our CEO Heather Kroll and our team in systems and innovation and trying to improve every aspect of what we do for the artist and the audience, and then everybody else from industry through to venues and Honeypot, etc. That big investment means that our platforms are very agile. We iterate constantly. We listen to feedback. We take it on board, and then we roll it out. And it means that no year, or actually no day, is the same as the last, which is why I'm still around and still really motivated and excited by it. We're here to sell tickets for artists and create that platform for them to perform on. So big part of my job is finding new audiences for artists and driving ticket growth. Yeah.
Perfect. And Gemma, how long have you been with Gluttony, and part of Adelaide Fringe now?
This is my 11th year with Gluttony, but I volunteered with Fringe from 2008, so quite a while. I started as a volunteer at Gluttony doing front of house, and then I was just very vocal about wanting to work there and eventually kind of bullied them into giving me a job. My role has really evolved over time as well. So from being a volunteer and then starting to just help with admin things, and then my background is in early childhood education, so I started giving advice on children's shows, and then that kind of evolved into being a full part of the programming team. So
Yeah, cool. And how do you think Gluttony has changed over the years?
it's pretty amazing how quickly Gluttony has grown. We started out in 2011, and actually we're just a long weekend food and wine festival. That's where the name came from. And then in the second year, we had a couple of little venues, and it went so well that like, let's just keep doing this. And it sort of got longer and evolved more. This year, we've got 16 venues with 190 shows. And we've gone from a team of, 2 directors running the whole thing to now about 400 people during Fringe and about 1,500 artists that we're involved with.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And Ella, maybe if you could talk a little bit about how big hubs like this operate within Adelaide Fringe.
Yeah, so as a uncurated open access festival, as is Fringe and Edinburgh, within that there is curation within the venues. So venues come on board and register on our platform, and that can be anywhere from a Gluttony hub or Garden of Unearthly Delights, and they say, hey, here we are, this is our name, we've got 16 spaces. They say the size of their venue, whether it's got aerial rigging, all the different ways in which artists might need to filter to find a venue, and then all the way down to a pub that has a function space above, through to a laundromat or a bus. Really anything can be a venue, and our teams work really closely to facilitate that. And then artists come on board and into the registration system and start searching. It's sort of a matchmaking tool, but we step back from the actual communication between the artist and the venue. So what that means is an artist has their idea and they come to the platform to find a venue, and then some venues are first in best dressed, so they literally get contacted by 15 artists and that's their program. They're essentially quite uncurated in that manner, but somewhere like Gluttony or the Garden of Unearthly Delights, Fool's Paradise, Holden Street Theatres, the Migration Museum, to name a few, are then curated within that uncurated festival platform. So they are then wading through, Gemma, you can probably speak to it, thousands of applications. So within our registration system, they can then jump off and fill out an application form for many of those hubs or venues that are looking for something more nuanced or making sure they're not, top heavy with one sort of certain genre. Each venue has its point of difference, and then the venue operators obviously know their audience and what they're looking for, and they do then curate within that uncurated platform.
Yeah, gorgeous. Is it the similar experience in Edinburgh?
Yeah, it's a very similar experience. So the Edinburgh Festival Fringe Society, who I work for, operates in a really similar way to Adelaide Fringe, in that we don't take part in the curation of the festival at all. But there are many hubs that operate in a very similar way to Gluttony, many of them. But we also have a number of venues that do operate in an open access manner. So it is essentially like, if they have a space for you at the right time, then they'll put you in there. They'll put you in their venue. There's a really lovely mix of, which kind of builds up these open accesses to give them the identity that they have. But it does make for, sometimes that can be a really tricky thing for artists to navigate, especially when they're new to open access festivals.
Yeah. Could you give us a little bit of a breakdown of the landscape of Edinburgh Fringe? So what are those big hubs and
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's see if I can go. So, and it's really nice because like so many of these venues, I'll say as well, engage with Adelaide Fringe. Like from a honeypot perspective, a lot of them do come into town. So there is this nice community of that you can be meeting these people now while you're here, in anticipation of potentially going to Edinburgh if that's on your cards. But so we have some of the bigger venues, or the ones that have bigger names and are curated, are the Pleasance, Assembly, Underbelly, Zoo venues, Summer Hall. We have, did I say Underbelly? Probably Gilded Balloon, thank you. The Traverse. And then we also have places like the Space or Greenside venues. I have missed out another 150 to 300, whatever. Yeah, so that like there's lots of them, but I mean, yeah, it's in a similar way to the Edinburgh Fringe has been around for 75 years, nearly 80 years. So, and a lot of these venues are like 40 plus years old as well. So they have these incredible identities within the landscape and a wealth of knowledge as well.
Yeah, great. How do you go about curating Gluttony?
It's a massive process. So we have an application process and we ask a bunch of questions about the show, about their marketing, how they're planning to sort of get people to the show. And then the team of 3 of us go through all those applications one by one. We read all of them. We get about 400 applications. We program 180 to 190 applications. So we actually independently assess the applications before we talk about it. So the 3 of us go away on our own. We read through everything and we sort of rate things that we like. And then we come back together and try and convince each other to book the things that we like. So we do it in about a week, 2 weeks, and it's a really hectic process, but a really exciting process.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
What would stand out to you in an application?
I think we look at things kind of in an order. So we'll look at the show name and image first up and see if that grabs us, because that's often what is selling the show. The first thing that people see when they're looking for a show to see is the name and the image. So that's the first thing we look at. And then we usually jump over to demographics and marketing. So seeing that somebody understands who their show is for and how they're going to get them to come is really important to us. And then we'll jump back to the description and we'll jump around. There's lots of questions. So depending on what we're trying to fill, we'll kind of jump around to all the different things.
Yeah, cool. Ella, you must see so many Fringe shows, all the registrations come through, thousands over the years. What stands out to you when you're seeing all the registrations come through?
Yeah, I think it's the thing that we speak about the most with artists, especially when we're trying to help them sell tickets. And I think Gemma's hit the nail on the head. You do need to know. And I will just preface this with, we know it's a challenge because a lot of people don't understand how far out we open our registrations in order to get everything ready and on sale. And so a lot of artists are probably don't even know what their show is yet when they're writing the description and the title. So that is absolutely a challenge. But to try and nuance that, because that then links directly with who your target audience is. And knowing that, knowing what your show is so important, because people can see through it really. And there are, in Edinburgh, 3,000 odd shows, here this year, 1,400 plus. So to break through and find your audience to sell tickets is challenging. But yeah, good imagery is really important. And we do understand that, again, it's very early to be pulling all of that through, but you do have opportunity to update your image. Once the guide goes to print, it's a tiny thumbnail image, but you can do a photo shoot later on and resubmit imagery to us. Then your poster needs to match your imagery that you've got on the website. We definitely are seeing a lot more people making reels or content that they can upload onto the website, and I think audiences are really clicking on those. So seeing little trailers of your show is important as well. A lot of stuff is exciting when I've seen, you hear of the little gems that fell through the cracks or didn't have a great image, or their title maybe didn't make sense, and they're still brilliant. So I love finding them, but if I'm talking with my marketing hat on and how you can cut through in these open access festivals, those things are really important, and making sure that your description of your show actually tells a story. And just to preface that with, artists could change their copy right now on the website. We're very nimble with updating things as you go, and as you sort of realise what your show is. If it's the first time you're performing it here, you might go, I'm really resonating with this audience, let's lean into that. Or, you got some great shots during your show, you can update and have 5 or 6 images on the website to help cut through as well.
I think that's something that I'll say for Edinburgh as well, and something we find that artists don't realise is that you can update all of the things that you put onto the website, and making the most of that, because that's where most of the traffic comes through in terms of ticket sales and that kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely. If you've got new content or you're realising something's just not hitting the right way, get in touch with, I presume, the artists, the registration team, and similarly in Edinburgh, because it's important that it's selling its best. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you see as successful shows at Gluttony?
Like their strategies?
Yeah.
Again, it's that knowing who you're looking for and actively finding them. for example, we had a show a few years ago that was about all the things that she could do with her long hair. It was a circus show. So she'd like hula hoop with her pigtails and stuff like that. And she really actively sought out hairdressers and, you know, like really thought about where are people who care about hair and like went to those places and actively found it. So it didn't necessarily mean having a massive marketing budget, but being really creative with the way they approached it. The other thing is knowing the point of difference. So, you know, you can kind of look in the Fringe Guide and see 100 one-woman cabaret shows, for example. Why do people want to come to your show more than anybody else in that guide? And why do we want that in our venue any more than in the guide, than any other show that's in the guide? So yeah, understanding that you're not for everybody who enjoys Fringe, you're for your audience and understanding who they are and yeah.
Absolutely. I think something that I'm finding in registrations is that audiences can sniff out authenticity really easily.
Yeah.
If you have a story, tell your story, and audiences will be drawn to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is we always survey artists about why they're participating in Adelaide Fringe, and I'm talking a lot about ticket sales. That might not be the sole reason that someone is in Adelaide and potentially in Edinburgh as well. So if it is the first time you've ever done a show, you don't know maybe who your audience is yet. You're literally jumping on a stage for the first time, and that's great. That is what we exist to help you do. And so maybe in your first year, you're just trying to see whether you've got an hour's worth of content and whether, you know, how you feel about that. To find an audience to build, you might be hoping to get a review so that you can take a review from Adelaide Fringe over to your Edinburgh season, or you're planning on going as a stand-up to the comedy festival and this is, you know, you're testing material. So when we talk about open access and then specifically about imagery and content and copy and all of those things, you might also just want to be here to meet someone that's in Honeypot that's programming cruise ships because it's your dream to perform on cruise ships. And there are cruise ship programmers in Honeypot. So the reasons that you might be here aren't always to turn a profit and sell thousands of tickets. It could be lots of other reasons, and we really do hear that from artists. And I think that's one of the beauties around the Open Access Festival. I mean, it's not financially viable for lots of people to just come here and have a crack, but also if you want to do that, you can, and we'll support you and hold your hand through the whole process.
Maybe this is a good time, Meabh, to touch on what is Honeypot and what is the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested how it operates alongside Adelaide Fringe or Edinburgh Festival.
Yeah, so Honeypot is the international arts marketplace. It's the kind of program that's been created and has existed for 17 years.
Yeah.
This is also, I'm sitting next to some people who have longer engaged with Honeypot than I have, so please keep me right on my numbers. But essentially it's an opportunity to bring industry into Adelaide because there are 1,400 shows, and so what a better place to be in the world at this time is to find work and to match them with the artists who are taking part of the program. So there's a number of events that we run to support those connections, and a number of online services that we have, including Delegate Finder, Show Finder, to support both the artists and the industry finding each other and the opportunities that they're seeking. I would say, like, for what Gemma was just saying before, and both yourself, like the USP, the unique selling point of your show, and also like making sure that there's like clear themes that are coming through or it speaks to your audience is also crucial for industry as well. Mm-hmm. So it works for both, that if you can find that, then it's got the makings of catching people's eye. So yeah, and then in Edinburgh, the last few things I'll say, we have 300, nearly 400 industry who have registered with us this year in Honeypot from 30 odd countries. So, and the program is growing every year, and it's really exciting. And I would say as well, with my Edinburgh hat on, sorry, I've been doing this all month, with my Edinburgh hat on, Honeypot just has this incredible reputation, and I totally see that and understand that now that I've been fortunate enough to be on this side of the fence. So yeah, Adelaide is extremely fortunate to have, and the Fringe to have this program. In Edinburgh, we run a similar series of services. In terms of numbers, though, and I think that's probably Edinburgh had 3,700 shows take part in the festival last year. We had 1,800 industry from about 60 countries. And with that scale comes many new and differing objectives and things that people want to get out of the festival. But with that 1,800 industry, which is part of what, like, the group that I look after, we run a similar series of services and events. We have a Fringe marketplace platform which showcases the ready-to-tour work and the work that's looking for onward opportunities, and allows industry to access the digital assets, the contact details of the artist, other key information around their unique selling point, and what that artist is looking for. And then we have a complimentary ticket request service so that artists can manage themselves, so they can approve or decline requests from industry. We have Fringe Connect, which is an online platform where artists and industry can connect online, and we give out lists of the industry. We unfortunately can't make all of our industry delegates' contact details available to artists because there are 1,800 of them, and that's GDPR, which is a whole other thing.
That's coming for us.
But we can help artists navigate and find the right industry within those lists to help you connect. And then we also have this incredible team called Artist Development, who are the artist-facing side of it, and we talk about each of our teams being one half of the matchmaking service. And so the Artist Development team, you can have one-to-one meetings with them, and they will help and sit down with you and help kind of work out what those objectives are, because because of the financial investment in coming to places like Edinburgh, it can be really overwhelming in trying to work out what you want to get out of it, because you kind of want to get everything out of it. And so making the artist development service is there to kind of work with you to help find what it is that you should be focusing on. And maybe that is, I'm just going to try out an hour of new material and find who my audience is. It could be that, no, I want to put together a UK tour or find an agent, or varying other many ideas. But so working with them to kind of come to an understanding, or it's just make a profit, which is it is tricky in Edinburgh, but it can be done. Anyway, but that's kind of, the Edinburgh Fringe is, and it is the same here, their marketplaces are so huge that we just consistently like to remind artists there are organisations there that are there to help you navigate it, and any question you have, there'll be someone in the organisation who can answer it. Yeah.
I think the other unique thing about both marketplaces, there's lots of other touring ways that you can engage with producers and finding onward touring opportunities. But the uniqueness of both Adelaide Fringe and Edinburgh Fringe is that the delegates are in the audience. They're sitting in live shows. They're watching the show for the full hour. They're not just seeing a pitch on a stage or a snippet or something in a video clip. They're seeing live reacts from the audience. They're looking around and saying, okay, well, what is this demographic? Is this demographic what my festival is? They might be from Shanghai with a circus festival, and they're considering language barriers. So, how they can actually see the full show and picture what is the lighting requirement, how many cast is in this. They can see everything and then decide whether or not they do want to take that work on. And that's the uniqueness and the huge benefit. And also we say to audiences, like, you could be sitting next to someone from Soho Theatre in London. You could be sitting next to, you could be sitting next to people that are casting for Australia's Got Talent, that they're in town too. So that's, when we talk about the honeypot, it's the melting pot of the festival, and it's a really unique and brilliant thing that we are able to offer to artists and then all of the industry and delegates who come on board the platform.
I think one other thing that I'll say about Edinburgh, which, I think we've had conversations with the team here in Adelaide for a number of years now about keeping in touch about the different marketplaces and anything that's evolved or come out of their festival and that they feel like people need to know about or what have you. And Edinburgh is a marketplace and a festival that runs 10 a.m. till 2 a.m. in the morning. It is unrelenting and amazing that people constantly have to be in two places at once, because if they're at an event, they could be in someone else's show. And so in terms of the industry engagement, it can be really tricky, because from our perspective, the most important thing is that industry is seeing the shows, that they're getting a sense of what is happening and they're finding and being able to make those decisions. And so, and it is a bit different here in Adelaide in terms of that, during weekdays, there's a bit more time for industry and opportunities for those connections to be made in that environment. But yeah, the industry who come into town in Edinburgh, it'll be on average for like 4 to 5 days. And in that time, they'll be seeing 6 to 8 shows in a day. And hopefully they're coming to these events and hopefully they're making time to make coffee, but make coffees with people and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's that two places at once, needing to be constantly in two places at once that is interesting about Edinburgh.
It's amazing that Adelaide Fringe and Ed Fringe have like such amazing professional and industry opportunities. But I think it's also important to note that one of the benefits of being a part of an open access festival is that it's a great step up for emerging artists. I think Gluttony does an amazing job at supporting emerging artists, especially South Australians. And in our programs at Adelaide Fringe, I know we have some great professional development opportunities, things like podcasts like this. Could maybe you talk a bit about how an open access festival is a great opportunity for emerging artists?
I think being around other artists that are doing what you want to do is like a massive part of it. And there's so many opportunities to connect with other artists and ask people about what they do. And most artists are super generous about sharing their knowledge and sharing their experiences and helping those emerging artists come up. And there's also a lot of shows that are sort of doing a variety or a changing lineup sort of thing that want to program emerging artists as well. And so we've got a lot of artists who are performing on stage for the very first time ever. And that some of them are, 15 or something, and they're doing their first on-stage performance, and they're looking at these massive shows in like a 1,500 seat venue going like, I want to be there. And then they get to meet those people and ask them how they got there. And I think that like just the wide range of people who participate means there's so many opportunities to learn, and so many professional development series. Like the Fringe program is amazing of what they offer artists to do just as part of being part of Adelaide Fringe. Yeah.
I think the difference between an open access festival and a curated festival from an emerging or an independent artist perspective is when you're programmed as part of an international or any sort of curated festival, is that you're, in most cases, paid a fee, you're flown there, you're accommodated, and then it's the festival's risk to sell tickets on your behalf. And so you rock up, and it'd be disappointing to perform to 10 people, but also you're getting paid regardless. Now, I'm definitely generalising here, but the flip side is that at Adelaide Fringe, Edinburgh Fringe, in an uncurated sense, the risk is all on the artist, so you have to hustle. And so what that means is you're out and about engaging in all of these things, and everybody else is there hustling, and everybody else is there was you once. And so everyone's sharing, and again, I use that melting pot term, that's where honeypots sort of come from, but you're all generally generous with your time and your thoughts and your energy because you've learnt what makes it work. Whereas on the flip side of a curated festival, you're probably chauffeured in or shuttled back to your hotel after the night. That I don't want anyone to be upset that I'm making these comments, but that's kind of the general difference, is that you're hustling here. It's your show on the line, it's your name, it's your reputation, you're in charge of the destiny of your festival, and generally that means that the ideas are more shared and the community really bubbles to the top and everybody wants everyone to succeed. We certainly do at Adelaide Fringe, and so we're all on board on that journey with everybody because it's a shared journey rather than the risk sitting with just the festival.
Yeah. And I would also say that everything that you've just said is totally spot on, and I think picking up on community as well, like the really amazing thing is that there are so many artists, there's so many industry there's so many people working on the festival sites that I know from Edinburgh. I even know from back when I was working in the Perth Fringe, which was my first Fringe that I had, been to and worked in. And so if you're thinking of going to Edinburgh or vice versa, you're in Edinburgh and you're thinking of coming to Adelaide, like connect with the people, knowing that those people will be with you in that kind of circle and that cycle, and you will engage with them again.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note as well, at Adelaide Fringe, most of us behind the computers on the other end of the call, we are artists ourselves and locals here in Adelaide, so we know and have the experience of what it is to find your audience here in Adelaide. We've talked a little bit about the challenges, one of them being oversaturation. Do you think that's the main challenge facing artists in an open access festival?
I think for us, when you're looking at the biggest challenge of finding a place to show your work, is that finding that way to express what your show is for someone who can't necessarily come and see it is a really big challenge. And I think that I find a lot of artists don't know how to sort of put themselves out there or sort of, talk themselves up, or they don't like to sort of big note themselves or say, my show's amazing. That can be really hard to get through everybody else when you're trying to get your show into a venue or try and get booked. To be able to catch the attention of somebody who's programming a venue or booking a venue. Really, we've had applications that we've sort of said, oh, this doesn't sound right for us. And then I've gone to see this show and gone, why didn't we book this? This is incredible. But the artist just hasn't managed to get that across to us. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges when you're trying to be different and you're trying to, say what you do. And a lot of artists are artists and they're arts people, and their brains are not in writing essays about themselves or about their show. They just want to do their art. And so that's really hard from both sides. It's hard for us because we understand that, and so we want to give everybody a chance, whether you're good at writing about yourself or not. And then it's hard for the artist to, sort of express that to a venue as well.
I think the challenge is what you've said is that artists want to do their work, but unfortunately they need to be the marketer, the producer, sometimes the tech, the front of house, the grant writer, they need to be a copywriter, they have to take good imagery, they have to do costume design. Like, the list is endless, and that's, I think, is a challenge. And I've dipped my toes into producing work. I'm not a performer by any means, but it's hard. You are learning constantly. You are having to wear so many hats, learn your lines, decide what you're going to wear, where's the photographer, can I afford it? Where am I going to put my marketing spend? That's a challenge in itself. And, we could do a whole podcast on the nuances of trying to market your show and the challenges around, we're all just funneling money to Meta now, which breaks my heart. But, social media is the big cut through, but they trick you. They're like, just give us $50 and we'll boost your post. And I'm like, no, please don't do that. But, if an artist doesn't know, then they're just pouring money down the drain. And, there's challenges with postering, and do I print flyers, and where can I flyer? And then there's a sustainability ethics to that. And so the challenges for an artist in an open access festival, and I think just being an artist anyway, is really hard. And the multiple hats you have to wear, I take my hat off.
For Edinburgh, I think one of the biggest things is the cost. And that is the biggest inhibitor. And accommodation is
a new challenge.
It's a really new and difficult challenge. And, as an organisation, we're consistently lobbying the council and the government we're not supported by any government funding as an organisation either. And so, it's like finding the ways to get the funders to take our festivals seriously in a way that, because they bring so much money into this marketplace and into the Adelaide, and finding ways to give it back to the artists as well is a real struggle. And I think with accommodation and also like larger events that are happening in Edinburgh this year makes it really difficult as well.
Just a little band called Oasis.
Yes, and AC/DC.
What do you think some of the challenges Adelaide Fringe is facing, Ella?
I think our biggest challenge, I mean, we're so wonderfully supported by the South Australian community, but we have, for the last few years since COVID, really been turning our attention to finding new audience, and that's been a big part of us working with government and in our marketing campaigns, is to reach out and find new audiences, so interstate and international tourism, and we're seeing that growth. We are, once you do really invest, but it's a big investment to try and convert people to come to Adelaide. Once they're here, they get it, they love it, but South Australia itself has a challenge with its rankings, under the Gold Coast, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and the Great Barrier Reef and Uluru. We have Adelaide Fringe, and so that's our big thing really, and our proximity to wineries and the beach and the beautiful. Adelaide is a beautiful place to be, but it doesn't rank internationally in awareness from a tourism perspective. So yeah, I think that's our big challenge. And we're here to sell tickets for artists, so that's what we do. We are going to continue to do that, and we're seeing the returns. And then I think we are going to continue facing accommodation issues for artists. Not that there's not availability. There's new hotels opening here all the time, which is extremely promising. There's new airline routes being negotiated, and that's also extremely promising from a tourism perspective. But from an artist perspective, affordable accommodation to be able to sustain their season, that is hugely challenging. And I think we have some opportunity for growth we do a really lovely sort of accommodation drive, so we try and encourage audience members to let out their spare room for the love of it and a small fee to cover costs, but I absolutely think that we can grow the awareness of that, because there are so many people that have that spare bedroom, and that makes all the difference for an artist to be able to come home and have a nice cup of tea in a nice room not too far. And actually that's another beautiful benefit of Adelaide, is that nothing is too far. So but I think from those two perspectives, there's some of our bigger challenges, for both audience and the festival itself and artists.
Yeah. Gemma, how about yourself? What are the challenges of working a major hub in the festival?
I think one of the challenges for us, it's sort of a positive challenge, but the rate at which we've grown. It started as, a couple of people just doing a fun thing for a weekend, and now there's, all these artists and all these shows, and we're really about artists and we're about shows, and that's what we base everything we do on, and we want to maintain making sure that all of our artists feel looked after and feel supported and are selling tickets. And the more you grow, the harder that is to sort of scale to make sure that everybody's feeling supported and feeling equally welcomed and successful, basically. But I think also for us is a big thing is the last minute nature of ticket buying, which Adelaide is famous for, and we have to tell international artists, like, don't panic yet, because Adelaide is famous for just doing it on the day, because we're spoiled in the fact that you can wait until the day to buy a ticket to most things. So trying to get audiences to do that ticket buying early so that artists can just do their shows and not being stressed about tickets and stuff, I think is one of our biggest things that we're trying to work on and encourage, to try and teach audiences.
Nearly 80% of tickets are sold in the 5 weeks of the festival. So for an artist checking their sales report, we get a lot of calls, and they'll be loading the report and it's blank and your heart sinks. But if it's still a month out or only a couple of weeks after tickets go on sale, you're like, don't panic yet. But that's all good and well for us to say from Adelaide when an artist is coming from New York City or Edinburgh, and their life is on the line in terms of costs adding up, and they haven't sold a single ticket yet. It's an extremely common story, and then we all sort of jump in and try and do everything we can to help. But it's common, and we've done a few initiatives this year. We were actually just chatting before this about the success of our early bird sale, and that allowed artists to discount their shows, and audiences really lent into that, and the message that artists were promoted to say is like, my show's not getting any cheaper than this, so buy a ticket now. And we saw a really lovely uptake on that. Then we do initiatives such as our flash sale again. So our energy partner Lumo, they actually subsidise the discount, so the artist gets the full amount, the audience gets a discount. And the brilliant thing about that sale is that there's a limited amount of tickets that are subsidised, but the amount of tickets actually that are sold on that day at full price is 3 times the amount that is actually subsidised. So it's a phenomenally powerful sale, and we try our best to not ask artists to give up that discount, but sometimes we can't get a partner on everything, and I think the early bird sale is a really good news story. It was really successful, and we'll gather feedback again and see what artists think, but they can limit the amount of tickets that are for sale at that discounted price, and it does help to sort of say, oh, I've got some sales coming in, and then we'll analyse all the data, and hopefully those audiences then bought again later. You know, they got a cheaper ticket at the start, and then hopefully we'll see them returning, which we do see and we can analyse quite closely. But yeah, I would agree. Ticket buying patterns are tough here, but similar in Edinburgh.
Very similar in Edinburgh. And again, I think to bring up COVID, like things have just vastly changed in people's behaviours since it happened. And so every single year kind of brings some new experiences and it's kind of evolving. But yeah, in a similar way, so many tickets are sold on the day of within the festival. Yeah.
And I think from an audience perspective in an open access festival, like there's so much to see that often audiences, I know myself, I'm only planning one day in advance because I know there's new kind of hidden gems that are coming to the surface every day, and I want to keep myself open to seeing other things. But yeah, it's great to hear that campaigns like the Early Bird initiative is one I think that will only grow in years to come as well.
I think we have a challenge as well. I mean, I don't know how tickets are selling, and not for everybody, but definitely tickets are selling this year, and they have. But it doesn't matter, and I think about it often, does it matter whether audiences know what an open access festival is? It's a totally challenging thing to explain. I've got family members at Christmas like, who's coming? I'm like, I don't know. This is my 12th year. You've asked me every year. I don't know. And registrations are happening. They don't get it. They think we've called Archbarker and invited him to Fringe, and they just don't understand. So it is a challenge because I think if they are festival goers or they're tourists and they might have been, as we grow tourism, that's another thing to consider is they might have been to a curated festival and the show is polished and it's in a massive theatre and they didn't expect to be sitting, on the grass on a hill, or in the back of a little pub, seeing the best thing they've ever seen potentially, but that they haven't quite clicked how we're different. And so, yeah, that's another challenge as well.
Where do you think our festivals will evolve in the future?
I'm not going to answer that one first. I want to think on it.
We sort of mentioned, Gemma mentioned a really good point around, and I mentioned Adelaide's platforms in diversity and accessibility, and we're striving to be the most inclusive arts festival in the world, and so there are a lot of barriers that we still need to break down, but we have some great initiatives to try and evolve who is performing on the stage so that audiences can see themselves and feel that they are a part of our festival, and we do that through some great programs. We have a Fringe Foundation, Arts Unlimited, and people can donate to that. And then we buy tickets for community members who wouldn't otherwise be able to come to Fringe. So that means that through the donations, we purchase the ticket at full price, the artist gets that return, and then community members in their thousands are able to enjoy the magic of Fringe. So that's one thing we're doing. We do a lot of work on our website in terms of companion card, not making it harder for people to buy tickets, making it easier for them to buy tickets. We offer grants so that voices from marginalised communities can have a go and do a show at Fringe, and then that grows the audience as well, because once someone from their community is on a stage, they feel that they can be part of Fringe, and so that is a challenge, but that's the evolution, I think, for us, and it's a really beautiful thing to be working on, and you guys are supporting that as well from Gluttony's perspective, and I think everyone's leaning in, but it's one of the most exciting things for us is that creating that diversity and that inclusivity as a festival.
Do you see Gluttony going in a similar direction?
Yeah, that's something we're trying to really focus on, and it's quite a tricky thing for us with accessibility because we're a park and we're tents and we pop up and we disappear. So we can't do things like investing in access, specifically like structurally. We can't just build something that then is there for years and years. We have to rethink it every season. And so, it's a challenge for us to make sure that we're accessible to everyone while also being a temporary structure. So that's something that we've been also working really hard on and taking a lot of feedback, asking for heaps of advice from people who experience our festival, and people will come and say, oh, this was really difficult for me. We had a wheelchair user come and say when we go along decking, my wheels go in the slats of the decking because the decking's facing that way instead of that way. And we know that because we know that, but like getting people on board who can help us to develop how we operate to be more accessible and inclusive is something we're really trying to do, and starting to actively seek out diverse artists as well, who it benefits us because they bring their community with them and they bring their audiences with them, which in turn grows, Gluttony as a whole. So that's something we're trying to work on.
Yeah, great. Meabh?
So I guess for us, there's the aspect of and to go back to it, we are a really large festival and we have grown and have a number of systems that haven't necessarily evolved with our growth. So one of the big things for us is that over the next few years, we'll be getting a new website, which will improve ticket access and sales and all of that. And that's a big focus for us. But then also improving many of the other systems and services that we have attributed to that. But if that website works well, then we should be doing good. So you'll probably, if you've been on the Edinburgh Fringe website, we currently have a temporary one up right now, which is already a huge improvement on where we were at before. I think for us, it's also just continuing to break down the barriers that exist in terms of taking part of the festival. And a lot of that is to continue with the where we can work to bring down the costs of engagement. We've, over the past couple of years, and it's unfortunately only accessible to UK artists at the moment, but we're looking at ways that this can evolve, is the Keep It Fringe Fund, which we continue to tell people about, but it's a really simple form for the UK artists. And again, we're hoping this will kind of expand its horizons soon enough, but a really simple form that allows people, I think it was just over £1,000, maybe a little bit more, to take part. And I guess it's not too dissimilar to the Arts Unlimited Fringe Fund that you have available. So making more opportunities like that to just inject cash back, give it back to the artists, so that it makes things a little bit easier. It means that their accommodation is all sorted. It means that they can market in these different ways, their shows in the different ways, is a big one.
Gorgeous. I think we'll wrap up soon, but if you had one piece of advice for artists or a venue or someone wanting to take part in Fringe for the first time ever, what would it be? Go for it.
This is, I don't know, maybe I can give another one and then we can edit it out. But if this isn't, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice, is come and visit it before you take part. Come and see the Fringe, understand it in Edinburgh. It is these festivals work in a similar way, but Edinburgh is a totally different beast in terms of scale. So if you have the opportunity, and maybe that is that you go work within a venue, or you do front of house, or you work behind the bars, but if you can come experience it, start to establish some of those relationships, talk to the artists, talk to the venues, talk to the box office staff, get a sense of it, that will set you up for success when you do bring your show over.
I guess from my perspective, we hear so many examples. We've built AVR, and that is the hub of information that we then are able to power our website and our guide and how audiences find your show. And I feel like potentially first-time artists or those more independent, newer artists don't understand the power of that, or I guess the importance of it, and they burn through it, and then we get to week 3 and they haven't sold any tickets, and I was like, oh, you didn't add any membership pricing, you didn't engage with the flash sale, your copy isn't great, or you didn't know that we had this workshop, or you could have met this person. And it's not too late, we can always turn it around to a best of our ability, but I would just emphasise the importance of taking and putting your business hat on in that moment and reading everything you can read. We make so many wonderful resources that help you take bite-sized pieces of the festival and write down the important bits and then come back to us. Or I guess the the thing I'm trying to say is like engage with what we do, because we're here to support you, and there are so many things in place to help you every step of the way. And I'm just emphasising the importance of getting your ticketing pricing right, or we do this brilliant report at the end that shows you in this capacity venue, in this genre, and on this day, this is the average price type. And so look at that and then put that into your budgets and be realistic, and call us and read what we've got, because we can really help. And I think this bit all the way back in September is really going to set you up for your season. And I don't think enough people spend the time trying to get that bit right.
Absolutely. I think AVR is amazing, can be overwhelming too. And I think something I would recommend is booking the artists and venues team in for a one-on-one. And we can direct you to the information that's out there. It can be very overwhelming sometimes, so we can hold your hand and help you through it.
And it's also not lost on us that potentially artists on a circuit are doing the registration for Perth Fringe, Adelaide Fringe and Comedy Festival within a month, and that makes me feel queasy, because that is a lot for somebody. And so I would imagine people log on and they're so overwhelmed that they may not continue, but we have the teams to support that. You can book a one-on-one, you can call us, and I guess that's my big plea is like, please engage with what both festivals are offering, and Perth and Comedy Festival, they've got teams to support artists, and that's what we're here to do. So please engage with those resources.
Artists at adelaidefringe.com.au, artists at edfringe.com. Like, just email if you've got a question and we can help. We're there.
We're tickets at as well, and marketing at, and we all see all of it, and then we disperse it out and the right person answers your question. So
Perfect. How about you, Gemma?
I think mine is do your research and ask all the questions. Like Ella said, there's loads of stuff available on Fringe websites themselves, but there's also Reddit threads, and there's Facebook groups, and there's just people who have done it before. If you're coming to Adelaide for the first time, talk to someone who lives here and say, I'm thinking about this venue. What is it like? Where is it compared to everything that's going on? There's so many people who are so willing to share their knowledge, and like, not every venue, but certainly something I do year round, especially when the festival's not on and it's a bit calmer, is just answer questions, even if we don't end up booking people's shows, or even if they don't end up even applying to us, to really just give as much information as we can. And often it is like, go to this thing on the AVR that Fringe has made for you already, which thank you, because it saves you a lot of time. But just ask people things. Most people are really happy to give you answers, and don't just sort of turn up and hope that it will happen, and that you'll just magically sell tickets, because you need to actually know what you're doing. And there's loads of generous people out there who are willing to tell you their experiences and how it works. So use those opportunities to meet those people and ask them stuff.
Great. What a really enriching and amazing conversation. Thank you all for joining me today, and thank you for joining us. Thank you. Have a lovely Fringe.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.